we'll have no choice, I guess. Okay. Once again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We'll continue on in Islamic law. The first section, as we mentioned normally, is regarding the issue of purification, and that is as a introduction or a preparatory level to acts of worship, ibadat, whether it be daily prayers or other types of ibadat that require tahara or purification. And the first thing is to understand what are the types of physical impurity or najasa. And although I mentioned that there are two levels of najasa, one is the level of physical and one is the level of the spiritual. The physical level of najasa refers to things that are impure. And we mentioned that urine and human feces and the feces of the animals that have basically gushing blood, or they have the heartbeat, or similar to humans, with the exception of animals that are consumable, that are permissible to consume, to eat. Those animals, their urine and feces are not impure, are not najis, though they are not permissible to consume. Not everything that is tahir is consumable. There are certain things that are not najis, but you cannot eat them. Although there is a controversy on one of them, but we'll leave that for now. With the camel, some suggest that with the camel there's an exception to the rule. In any case, so we said these are some of the najasat, and we went through some of them. I believe we did the bawl and gha'at being the first and the second articles or items of najasa, the third one being the semen. Semen is also najis, and also the corpse, the dead corpse of whatever has the flowing or the gushing blood, whether it is halal to eat or not halal. Either way, their corpse are dead. They're najis, except the corpse of the animals that are slaughtered in accordance with the halal rules. Their meat and so on becomes tahir. Otherwise, the natural thing about it, the rule of thumb with that regard, is najis. And that's important because of the fact that whenever you're in doubt, you take it back to its root, to what it is by nature. If there is nothing that brings it out of that doubt, therefore it stays in that state. For example, this is istishab, asalatul istishab. This is a rule of in the principles or usul al-fiqh. In any case, that's one other article, mita. I believe we did go through the rules of that. And the next one being blood, and we did mention the blood of animals and humans is najis, with exception of the blood that remains in the body of an animal after it has been slaughtered according to Islamic law. So, for example, some, inside the meat of an animal that has been slaughtered properly and it has basically bled the najis blood eventually, and then they wash actually the place of the wound, and eventually whatever remains in the body of the animal is tahir, is pure. Although again, even that blood is not permissible to consume, to eat. You may ask how. For example, let's say you get you got a piece of meat, the liver is a great example. That blood of it, as you're cutting it and so on, that blood itself as it is, to drink it or to consume it in that manner is not permissible. Though if it's consumed in the cooking, it's fine. But in itself, just to eat the certain, like if you get a vein, some veins, they have actual blood in it. You cannot consume that knowingly. The next one, there was a question, I think, about this one. We did mention that dogs and pigs, dogs and pigs are also najis. They're part of najasat. Meaning what? The entire body of it is najis. So you have to treat the entire body of it and anything that is a part of it as najis. Again, najasa only transfers through moisture. There has to be some level of rutuba or rutubat or moisture or wetness that transfers for najasa to transfer. Otherwise, it does not transfer from one article to the other. So it could be najis. For instance, let's say I touch something that is impure, that is najis, and my hand became mutanajjis, it became impure. Now, if I touch this table, my hand is dry and the table is dry, the table remains pure, it doesn't become impure. The only time it transfers is if one of the two is wet, moist, and it transfers. The wetness is enough to transfer, even if it's momentary. It may transfer in that second and then dry immediately, but it has to somehow transfer. The next one, which is one of the controversial ones, and I did mention that briefly, if I'm not mistaken, last week we did discuss that briefly in one of the questions, is the body or the basically the entire body of the kafir, of a non-believer, of one who is a kafir. And I mentioned that this is because we have a clear ayah in the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that ayah declares that mushrikeen are najis. إنما المشركين نجس فلا يدخل المسجد الحرام بعد عامهم هذا. So we have some scholars who said that it applies to all levels of mushrikeen. Some say it only applies to mushrikeen who are outside of the people of the book, Ahlul Kitab. And some say that najasa is not physical, it is actually spiritual. Similar to the najasa of a person who requires ghusl. A Muslim who requires ghusl is najis, cannot pray and cannot enter masjid. If somebody needs to make ghusl, a male in janaba, female in that or in hayd or so on, therefore they are not allowed to enter the masjid. That najasa is not physical, so it's not their physical body that's najis, but they still are unable to pray and unable to or not allowed to enter the masjid. So some of our scholars take it more on the side of spiritual najasa, and I advise mu'mineen and mu'minat to go by whoever you are a follower of. We need to make sure we are following a scholar, submitting, and this is what I mentioned, I believe, in the very first session, submitting to God's law through one of the today's living scholars who are studying the law in Quran and studying the law in Ahadith and interpreting it and explaining it to us. So we need to submit to God. That is what Islam means, and that requires to follow a scholar, a marja, who knows, who has studied, dedicated their lives, just like in any other field. I mentioned that in medicine, you would go to any wise person, would not just decide on their own on medical issues and matters that are life-threatening or concerning. They go to experts in medicine, in law, in other areas. You go to experts. Similarly, in Islamic law, we do need to refer to experts. So refer to your marja when it comes to this particular issue. As I said, there are differences amongst the maraja. The next one is khamr. So the next article of najasat is khamr. Khamr being, it typically translated to alcohol. Not the best translation, because alcohol could be tahir. For instance, what is used in medicine, alcohol that is used for purifying wounds or cleaning and in general for purification in medicine, that alcohol is not najis. Is actually tahir, though it's not permissible to consume because it could be intoxicant or it could be poisonous. Nevertheless, in fact, even the alcohol that people consume, in a sense, it's poisonous, and that poison is causing them the reactions that they have. Though they might like some of the reactions, but essentially it is actually a poison. But some alcohols have more of a poisonous effect than other alcohols. So I'm not an expert on which one is which, ethanol, methanol, and whatever else. Nevertheless, the one that is used in the fermentation of, or produced in the fermentation of barley, and also the one that is produced in the fermentation of grapes, that kind of alcohol is najis, and that's typically what people consume as an intoxicant. It is najis and it's haram to consume, obviously. Interestingly, when if it transforms, one of the ways of the basically purification is when that alcohol transforms into vinegar. Once it transforms into vinegar, it actually becomes tahir. So that is the next one. The next article of najasa is what is referred to as fuqa. Again, the first one being khamr, being probably wine, and fuqa being the beer. And it's basically that is from ma'u sha'ir. Also, that is one of the najasat. So both wine and beer are najis. The next one, and there are some variations when it comes to our scholars. So if you have a specific question with regards to the fatwa of one scholar, a specific scholar, I can address that after the session, inshallah. If I know the answer, I will give you. If not, I will find out and share the answer, inshallah. So the next one, we did khamr and fuqa. The next one in terms of the najasat is there is the sweat of the camel if it is eating or consuming najasa, okay, specifically feces of a human, okay, if the sweat of that camel becomes najas. These are generally the najasat. I think that suffices for my session. Now it is your time to ask your questions, inshallah.
Inshallah, thank you. We have the slide open, and there are some questions coming on the slide. So maybe I can just go through that. Is that okay? Inshallah. I can go through that. I can ask the questions.
Sure.
Inshallah. I think I'll go here sequentially. Please demonstrate the performance of tayammum instead of ghusl or wudu.
Okay.
How is tayammum performed?
Okay. So tayammum, when one is required to do tayammum, they have to do it first. They have to find something that they can do tayammum on. Basically the turab, soil, is the best. So if that is not available, some other articles are okay to do tayammum with, including the stone. If you have a piece of stone, a marble or something, natural marble. So some things that are from earth, similar to what we do sujood on. Sometimes they say even if it's if you have collected dust from which is essentially from the soil of the earth, the light soil of the earth, if it's collected and a thick layer of that, if you don't have any stone or any basically soil, you can do that on it. First, if you have rings on, obviously you have to remove your rings and expose your forehead completely. And so if you basically, without any barrier, you tap both hands on whatever is allowed to do tayammum on in this manner. You remove it. If there is dust or something on it, you can remove it. It doesn't have to be on it. So it's not washing with sand, okay, or soil. You're not trying to wash yourself with sand or soil. There was one Sahabi who suggested that if you're junub and you need to make tayammum, you roll in the sand. I won't mention who. You can refer to the history and you'll find. He was the one who often he became a Khalifa and often made bid'ah. So you can find out which one amongst them liked making innovations. One of his innovations was he suggested that you roll in the dirt, basically, to become tahir for tayammum. Neither, that is incorrect, obviously. Whether you're doing it instead of ghusl or you're doing it instead of wudu, the method is similar. You tap. You don't need the dust on your hand. First is the forehead. From the entire palm needs to wipe the entire forehead, including the front of the nose. Okay, the entire palm wipes the entire forehead, including the front of the nose, in this manner. So you start from the top and you go, and this is it. Okay, so that's the forehead. If you're doing it instead of tayammum, you tap again, and generally I would tap again regardless. It's okay, you can do it instead of ghusl, you tap again, but you can tap again either way. You tap one more time, you don't need the dirt or dust or whatever, and then you wipe your entire palm on your the back of the hand. Is that the back hand? Yeah. Have I got it right? So you wipe the entire palm on the entire back of the hand from the wrist down. Okay, in this manner. And then you do that on the other one again, the entire palm on from wrist down, not from the elbow down, from wrist down. Again in this manner, and that completes the tayammum.
Thank you. There are a couple of questions coming in, so I'll quickly go through this. I think related question, is wudu required after tayammum, necessary after tayammum, or also done because of the lack of time? Is wudu required after tayammum for ghusl?
It is a matter that there are differences on, so I would have to verify. Wudu after tayammum, if they have done the tayammum because of instead of ghusl, because of the lack of time.
Lack of time.
Yeah. I will have to verify that, inshallah.
The next one is how to clean a house or home after moving there, knowing that the previous tenant or somebody previously living there had a dog
Ahsan.
in the house.
Ahsan. So jurisprudentially, when you don't know, you assume things are tahir. So you walk into the house, some people lived there, they had a dog, you can assume everything is tahir. You see hair, vacuum it, okay, dry without water, because you don't know if the dog was wet when it shed that hair and so on. So you don't know, you don't see it, you assume that it's tahir. So that's generally how you can do it. If you want, for the sake of precaution, to do extra, that's your prerogative. But in terms of ruling, a simple answer is you assume everything is tahir, and if you see dog hair here and there, you can just vacuum it or sweep it away, and you're good to go.
Okay. Thank you. I think the next question is, can I take a drug such as omega-3, which is almost always a form of soft gel and sourced by pork or non-halal beef? Some Ayatollah Murajat or told it is okay. Is
Okay, so the question is regarding the capsules, I guess, that the cover of which has gelatin, that normally is from pork or from beef, and the inside is what they're trying to consume. I would advise that you get some alternatives, and they are available. Istihala, in my humble opinion, has not occurred with regards to the gelatin. There are some who suggest it has occurred. In my humble opinion, and my research tells me that it has not occurred. The simple way of verifying that is the following. So gelatin is basically what gives that jelly feeling, or texture. And for istihala to occur, it is complete disintegration of something. Okay, istihala, it depends. Istihala in different articles. Istihala, for example, in the case of wine, is it becomes vinegar. When wine becomes vinegar, that's istihala. Not because it transformed in terms of chemically. Some people translate istihala as chemical transformation. That is incorrect. Istihala is not chemical transformation. I'll give you an example that all scholars would agree it is not tahir, though chemical transformation occurs. If milk becomes najis, let's say your milk becomes najis, can I make it into a yogurt and consume it? They'll say no. But chemical transformation does occur. Milk becoming yogurt, it's totally different now. Yeah, but it's still not okay to consume. So chemical transformation is not istihala. Istihala is complete disintegration. If complete disintegration occurs, they cannot use gelatin for the purpose that they use it. They use it because it still has that the characteristics that it has, or it had to start with. Basically, chicken stock. When you've all seen, when you make a soup with chicken, you put it in the fridge, what happens? Same gelatin, that jelly character. That is gelatin, okay? They extract it from the skin of pork, the pig's skin, and other from bone marrow and so on, the animal. They extract that for the purpose of those characteristics. If it disintegrates, it no longer has that characteristic. It's like wood is najis, burns, turns into ashes. Now it's tahir. Okay, completely burnt, ashes, it's tahir. An animal corpse, najis, in salt water, completely disintegrates. It's no longer there. It's part of the water and whatever that's tahir, that's istihala. But gelatin, to the best of my knowledge, is not istihala. Is that?
I think we've run out of time, but there is a last quick one.
Sure.
I think it's just clarifying your comment on camel. Can you explain what was the comment on camel?
On camel? Okay. There were two comments on camel tonight. So I'll, just to verify. There was one comment on camel. There are some who suggest camel urine is actually permissible to consume, and it's healthy and whatever else. That's controversial. I'll leave it there. I don't believe it is, and we'll leave it there. And I said, although it's not najis, the urine of camels, the urine of sheep, cows, horses, their feces even is not najis, is not impure, but it's not permissible to consume, although there are some who suggest. The other comment was regarding one of the najasat. If the camel consumes najis, eats human feces, then the sweat of that camel is najis, if that's the comment that they're referring to. But we'll Inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase us all in knowledge. Rabbi zidni ilma wa amala wa alhiqni bis salihin walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen wa sallallahu wa sallam ala sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.